Okay. And welcome back to the Portland Masters. This is our third round. This is the 12 o'clock squad. And these bowlers here are the fortunate 16 that are all 1-0 in match play. After this round, we will be down to just 8 undefeated players. And momentarily, I will have the bracket up on the Facebook sites.
Hey, Brian. Good to see you out here again doing
Hey, thanks,
the show.
man.
How's life out on is it a farm? No, it's just acreage, right?
Yeah, I don't have a farm. Okay, I just updated all three Facebook pages, Northwest Bowlers, Kellogg Bowl, and the Portland Masters Facebook pages. You can access the round results. This is round 3. These 16 players are all undefeated at this point, bowling head-to-head 3-game matches. The total pins for each 3-game match, highest score advances. There are no bonus pins for individual game wins. It's all just 3-game score. Last round we saw a couple huge sets shot. We had a 781 by Daniel Jackson Jr. We had a 763 by John West. Early on, we're seeing a left-handed dominance, which has been very common over the years at Kellogg Bowl and Milwaukee Bowl. It's really hard to keep them down when you got people like Hugh Miller and multiple-time national tour titleists. Our defending champion here, bowling on lane 8, going for 5 strikes in a row. And he doesn't quite get the mixer. Okay, so let's summarize what's going on this round. On the left right here, we've got Rob Edwards bowling against Ryan Losley on lanes 5 and 6. There goes Rob, snapping out the 10-pin nicely on a half pocket hit. This is game 1, round 3, winner's bracket, Portland Masters. And let's switch cameras now. Well, let's wait for Hugh to throw another strike here. As many of you know, last year Hugh Miller defeated Blaine Winninger for the Portland Masters title. And there he went a little high, didn't quite trip the 610. So over here on lanes 3 and 4, we have Jake Clemson and left-hander Gary Lennox facing off. Gary Lennox shot 631 his first set en route to a 34-pin victory. Jake Clemson shot 677, defeating Chris Springfells. And it looks like early on, Jake Clemson is trailing by 9 sticks. Let's take another look at the abbreviated approach of Gary Lennox. He's standing very far to the right, playing the middle of the lane. Very good shot there. Showing some versatility, playing inside for a left-hander. Left-handers typically get a nosebleed in that far. I can say that because I'm a lefty, so I can pick on him. Okay, so let's go to camera 2 here. And on your far left, we have Ryan Losley, the 2011 Masters champion. Playing the outside part of the lane, gets a nice wall shot there. That's a 4-bagger now for Ryan after missing a single pin in the 4th frame. Ryan currently going at a 225 clip. Rob going at about a 195 clip, opening up an early 30-pin lead. And on the right, we have Scott Howell. Scott Howell has the tall task of taking on our defending champion, Hugh Miller. And early on, Hugh has a 14-pin advantage through 7 frames. Scott Howell last year captured his first OBA title. Nice shot there by Scott. Okay, let's move over to camera 3, summarize some of our other matches. Okay, over on lane 11 right now, we have our leading qualifier, Eric Jensen. 8th frame. And he trips the 4-7. Huge break. And with that, Eric opens up a 42-pin lead on Ryan Nicholas early. Ryan Nicholas now up on lane 12. Great shot. Now, he may be dealing with a little bit of transition as John West just came off that pair. And John shot a huge 763, obliterating his nephew. And on the left, we have Marcus Winkelpleck, who we just saw win a thrilling match over Scott Halverson, 641 to 635, the only close match of the second round. He is bowling Hall of Famer and 2-time Masters champion Tim Myers, the great Tim Myers. And it looks like Ryan's having some early trouble on that left lane. Looking at scores right now through 8 frames, Tim Myers has a slim 8-pin advantage over Marcus Winkelpleck, and Marcus carries the B kit, tripping the 3 forward. Not something you see every day. I'm sure he'll take that. Probably leave a solid 10 later when you need it, right? Uh-oh. And that's going to have to be corrected. As you can see, Ryan got a little quick there with a 7-pin, and ball bounced out of the gutter. But as we know, once the ball leaves the lane and comes back on, it's dead. So that will be fixed as an open frame. Okay, so stepping up here in the 9th frame on lane 12, Eric Jensen can really put the early hammer down. And I think Ryan's really got his hands full this match. Eric is really rolling the ball good. Eric has a potential 258 if he strikes out. Ryan can strike out for 184. So that's going to be about a 70-pin deficit roughly if that were to play out. Okay, so we see the classic style of Tim Myers there. Playing the outside line. Eric Jensen, 10th frame. And he goes wide, leaves a 2-pin. Okay. So let's move over to camera 4 here and take a look on the left here. We've got the king, the great Jason Lauer. And Jason leaves a 2-4-5 in the 9th, and he's got some early trouble here on lanes 13 and 14. Right now, Ian Willard has a slim 8-pin advantage over Jason in a low-scoring affair. Matter of fact, Jason Lauer doubled in the first frame, and neither of these gentlemen have struck since. So, I'm sorry, neither of these gentlemen have been able to put together a double since early in the game. Over on the right, we have Craig Tucholsky finishing with a very nice 257 game. David Grooms with a 193. Craig will take a 64-pin lead into game number 2. And let's not forget about our end pair. And this here really is a classic match of two incredible left-handed bowlers. John West versus Daniel Jackson Jr. on lanes 17 and 18. It's going to be interesting with both of them kind of playing on top of each other. They might start burning up the fronts a little bit and start seeing them switch balls. As many of us know, when the left side gets ugly, Dan Jackson very often is able to override it. He gets a lot of end-over-end roll, and he can get the ball to pretty much ignore the front part of the lane when they're dry. So it'll be interesting to see with the heavy roll of John West if he can get through the fronts as this match continues. And Daniel Jackson has a 23-pin lead over John after one game. And John creeping a little high again, leaving a 6-pin. So might make a couple adjustments. Craig Tucholsky. Year 2000 Masters champion Craig Tucholsky right there with a strike. Nice shot by Ian Willard there in the 10th frame. And Ian strikes out for 219. Jason Lauer stepping up now in the 10th frame. Hasn't doubled since early in the game. Let's see if he can make the adjustment. Once again, going wide, and Jason's going to come out of this game with, at best, a $189. So Ian should take a 30-pin or so lead into game 2. And let's take a look and see what's going down at the low end of the house. Let's take a look at last year's champion, Hugh Miller. And my good friend Mike Humphreys has just handed me the Game 1 scores for Round 3 of the winner's bracket. Jake Clemson, 227 over Gary Lennox, 200 for a 27-pin advantage. We have Ryan Lusley, 235 over Rob Edwards, 178. It's a 57-pin lead. We have last year's defending champion Hugh Miller, 247 over Scott Howells, 208. 39-pin advantage for Hugh. Tim Myers, 232, 20-pin advantage over Marcus Winkelplex, 212. Eric Jensen, 237 over Ryan Nicholas, 173 for a 64-pin advantage. Ian Willard, 219. Jason Lauer, 189 for a 30-pin advantage. Craig Tucholsky, 257. David Grooms, 193 for a 64-pin advantage. Daniel Jackson Jr., 235. John West, 212 for a 23-pin advantage. We are now early in Game 2 in most of our matches. Scott Howell on lane 7. And he starts off this game with a turkey. Gonna try to make up some of that 39-pin deficit on Huey. I just pulled up the bio page for the great left-handed tour player Hugh Miller, who we're seeing bowl in front of us. Hugh is still at the top of his game locally, on a local level with all the young players. He's 59 years old. Hugh will turn 60 years old this November. Hugh joined the PBA in 1978, 7 national titles. His total career earnings are over $1 million on the tour. He is listed as $1,068,000, $1,068,266. That's a lot of money to win bowling. So talking about Hugh's personal bio, he resides in Centralia, Washington and Mercer Island, Washington, with his wife Donna and his children Justin, Mallory, Quentin, and Nicholas. He enjoys working out and taking care of his rental properties. His first job was working on a ranch in Wyoming, nicknamed Huey. Favorite sport to watch is hydroplane racing. I see Hugh posting pictures often of the racing. I also know that Hugh is a very avid baseball fan, and he's a pitcher. And he still plays baseball. He's kept himself in shape by running and eating right, and really it's amazing at 59. You know, him and Tim Myers have really taken care of their bodies, and so they're going to be able to bowl well into their 60s and be competitive. And Hugh won his career best 2 national titles in the year 1980 when he was a young man of 23 years old. Hugh's record on the tour, he's cashed in about 50% of the events that he has bowled in. He has cashed in 238 out of 475 national events. His television record is around 500 with a 17-18 record with 24 career TV appearances and an overall television average of 212.5. He has made match play 130 times on the PBA Tour. And I'm just scrolling down here to see what year was his best year. And it looks like 1990, Hugh cashed in 20 out of 30 events for $100,000. So he's had one 6-digit year on tour. Very impressive resume. And he trips a 6-pin there. Okay, so I moved the cameras back down to 17-18 where we can take a look at Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson currently has 126 in a 6 frame with a double up. Potential 246 max score. Bowling against John West, who has a potential max score of 247. So, guarantee it's going to take a 7-something to win that match between those two lefties. Just to review the last squad, Dan Jackson shot a 781, John West shot a 763. So they are both dialed in, carrying well, getting to the pocket regularly. Okay, so Dan stepping up here in the 9th frame to try to maintain his slim 23-pin lead over John West. Snaps out the 7. And John does not have the luxury of bowling against his right-handed nephew this round. Nice shot by John there in the 9th. Okay, back in
second or third
what?
game. What's their second?
And Jason Lauer has made some adjustments after the 189 game. He's got a turkey, a spare, and a strike. And he has eliminated Ian Willard's lead. Now Ian Willard trails by 3 halfway through this 3-game match. And if Jason's able to step up here and double, he will increase his lead to 13. And he snaps the 10-pin out nicely. And over here on lane 16, David Grooms. He leaves what is known as Grandma's Teeth, the Big Four. And David knows a lot about Grandma's. David loves blue hair. Get that mouse out of the way. Okay, so Willard went through the face, leaving the nasty 3, 6, 9, 10, and we've seen a huge swing in momentum in that match between Lauer and Willard. Lauer is going to start taking command, maybe. Ian's going to have to make some adjustments. The front part of the lane starting to dry out there, and if you set it short or if you tug it, it's going to run up through the face every time. And more troubles for David, leaving the 2-4-5 bucket in the ninth. So Craig Tucholsky now, through 19 frames, has opened up a 111-pin advantage on David Grooms. Once again, the 8 losers from this round will still be in the tournament. They will be sent to the losers bracket and still have another chance to stay alive. And that's trouble for David. David just missed that 2-4-5 combination. And over here, it looks like John West went spare strike for 225, and Dan Jackson can strike here for 225. That said, Dan will maintain about a 23-pin advantage heading into Game 3 of this match. And let's move down here to the low end now, where we have Ryan Nicholas striking in the 9th frame. Eric Jensen continuing his assault with a possible 258 game if he strikes out, whereas Ryan Nicholas can strike out for 222. So if both players strike out, Eric will have a 100-pin lead going into the last game. And that spells trouble there, running up high on him. And it looks to me like the look that John West had on that pair earlier might be gone. Jason Lauer on lane 13 leaves a solid 10 pin, and that ends his string. Okay, so 2-0 for Ryan Nicholas, and he's got a huge hill to climb now as Eric is totally lined up. Eric Jensen was our top seed once again last week. 141 bowlers bowled 10 games, and Eric came out on top, averaging 241 plus for 10 games. I wanted to take a moment to talk about what happened last weekend with Eric. So, Eric Jensen, he bowled the morning block, and he didn't bowl bad. He shot maybe like a 225 average the first 5 games, and went to lunch, shot 204 and 190 to end the first block. Well, I'd like to know what Eric had for lunch because he came back the second block last weekend and shot 258, 253, 256, 257, and 263 the second block. Just blistered the lanes en route to the top seed. Ian Willard had the top seed for most of the tournament. However, Ian fell off with back-to-back 190s at the end, finishing second to Eric. And as we see here, Eric shooting 258. On your far right. And right here on lane 12, Tim Myers tripping out the 4.710 high. And Tim Myers just shot 270 over Marcus Winkelplex 247. Eric shoots 258. Let's take a look down here on 3 and 4 and see what's going on. This is Jake Clemson. It looks like he has a potential 223. And it looks like he's opening up a sizable lead of around 50 to 70 pins over left-hander Gary Lennox. I used to bowl league with Gary Lennox's father, Gary Lennox Sr., another left-hander, and now, another thing I'd like to mention is last weekend, on Saturday, Ryan Losley shot 300 the first set, and so did Scott Halverson, along with Ian Willard shooting a 299 the opening game. Gary Lennox in the 10th frame, playing the inside part of the lane. And he can shoot 199 now if he strikes out. Well, let's go over and see how Rob's doing. Okay, so now we're focusing on the Rob Edwards versus Ryan Losley match. Oh, thank you, Bill.
What do you want now?
Great. Right there is perfect. Thank you.
What do you want to drink?
You know, I have some drinks in my cooler. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
What do you want to drink?
Oh, I'll take a beer.
What color?
Light beer is fine. The owner, Bill Oaken, just brought me some Pietro's pizza. Thank you, Bill. Great shot there by Marcus Winkelpleck on your far right. Thank you, sir. Very kindly, thank you. Love this job. Okay, Ryan Losley here. Second shot in the 10th frame, playing a down and in line and doubles, and able to salvage a 2-0. So Ryan will have about a 62-pin lead over Rob with 1 game to go.
I don't like it because I always write a medium on it.
Oh, did Wes burn those up for you? Did Johnny burn those up for you, that pair? Because he just shot 760 on there.
I can hit the pocket. It's just a matter
Yeah,
if
he
they all
burned,
go
he
down
burned
or
up the
not.
mid lane. That's what he did.
It's a matter if they all go down or not.
Yeah.
I almost 8-10 on it because the ball drove too hard. I'm like, oh, okay.
Sometimes, yeah.
Bone a 10 pin, can't get a scout to hit the 7. Finally just flipped his playbook around, moved away right, and kind of softened it
And
up
he's
there.
lined up. But there's your window.
Yeah, you can wipe out at 170 and I can...
121 though.
That's a lot of.
You can wipe out 170, I can shoot 290.
I was, you know what? I was ahead of Lee May by like 100 at Milwaukee one year, and I ended up losing that match.
Really?
You know, it used to be 4 games instead of 3.
You like that better?
No, I don't know.
My name's Greg, by the way.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Grew up across the street from Bill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Pulled my first 300 here on last Monday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I had my first year, 1987.
Here? Mm-hmm. Nice. Good lanes to get them on.
And I had the 2-game update here. So after 2 games, Jake Clemson has a 49-pin advantage over Gary Lennox. Ryan Losley with a commanding 117-pin lead over Rob Edwards. Hugh Miller goes 247, 280. 117-pin lead over Scott Howell. Tim Myers with a 43-pin lead over Marcus Winkelpleck. Eric Jensen with a commanding 121-pin lead over Ryan Nicholas. The King, Jason Lauer, with a 41-pin lead over Ian Willard. Ian struggled that game with a 165. Craig Tucholsky with a 120-pin lead over David Grooms. And right now, I'm going to switch down here to the end pair and see how our lefties are doing.
Can I see that? Sure. Nothing's really super close.
That's about how many miles is away from honeycomb.
And it looks like Daniel Jackson just missed a corner pin. He's coming up here in the 7th frame. Peered it. And right now I'm focusing on this match because this may end up being a pivotal match with 2 lefties that are really vying to make the show here. The loser of this left-handed match will have a much rougher go of it. Okay, here comes Dan in the key 8th frame on lane 17. And he swishes the light hit, 5 into the 10. Okay, John West now in the 8th frame. Ooh, and he has a love tap. It looked like a half or a flat 7, and 4-pin lifts out of the channel, gives it the love tap. You know what? He tickled the tonsils of that 7-pin. Great shot there by Johnny. I'm going to walk over here and see what the exact score is. I can't quite see it. So it looks like John can shoot 245 and Daniel Jackson can shoot 247. So basically, if Dan Jackson strikes here and then he fills frames in the 10th, he's going to shut out John. 9th frame. Beautiful shot. Tremendous competitor. We see Craig Tucholsky in front of the ball return. Tenth frame, Daniel Jackson. And that match is over. Dan Jackson will move on. Clutch hit right there. Okay, so knowing that that match is over, and the one next to it, Tucholsky's got David Grooms wrapped up. Let's go down the line here. So it looks like even though Gary Lennox is trailing, he has begun this game with a 4-bagger against Jake. So this match here that we're looking at, there's a current 28-pin advantage for Jake Clemson with 5 frames, 6 frames to go over Gary Lennox. Okay, right now we have the 2011 champion Ryan Loesley going for a 6-bagger. And he carries the 4-pin, the 410. And a rare miss by Hugh Miller, but he has his match well in hand. So these 2 matches are over. We got Hugh winning. We've got Ryan Loesley has won his match against Rob. Rob's mathematically out of it, so let's move along. Okay, we've got Eric Jensen really struggling this game, but he's got a 120-pin lead. It's not likely that Ryan can catch him. Basically, if Eric shoots anything over 140, it's over. So that match is over. Now, the match that's close right now, let's move to that, is Ian Willard is making a huge charge. Ian Willard with his front 6 has erased Jason Lauer's lead. this match is in a dead heat with 4 frames to go. The King, Jason Lauer, and Ian Willard. I think we're going to stick with this match the rest of this round because this one is knotted.
And if I would look at it, one guy says they give the 3 choices of what they do. Yeah, and I forget what these 2 guys there, and it said that he was a workout assistant or something, and they were just like businessman or something. And I told them, sure enough, anybody does anything, but I like it, don't catch them all you guys. That's why so he does. And I take care of doing this sponsors and get it done. He says, why do I lay down and I go like this? And I do it like that. And I said, that goes this, and this, and this. And I said, and I put it in my hands because I'm not supposed to let go neck too much. That's why I says, I have to work it. Oh, so I have to. I said, you do 40 of those 3 times a week.
And Jason leaves a solid 9-pin, ends his string at 6.
Yeah. And Chinese wrap that food too, so.
Okay, Ian Willard stepping up here in the 7th frame, going for his front 7. And he tomahawks the 10-pin. And if you go to the OregonBowlersAssociation.com website, you can see Ian Willard's picture as Ian just captured his first OBA title at Malala Bowl earlier this month. Once again, on this squad, we have 3 of the top 5 OBA players for this season. We've got Eric Jensen, who is currently Bowler of the Year in 1st, Jason Lauer, the King, currently in 3rd, and Hall of Famer Tim Myers in 5th. Now moving down the list for the OBA points, Rob Edwards in 6th, Ian Willard in 7th. So you have 5 of the top 7 players in the OBA bowling on this squad right now. It's the training ground.
He doesn't bowl the next squad. Losers bowl from the first round bowl. Winner of Springfield.
And let's switch over to the Tim Myers match because there's been huge developments. So what has happened is Tim has missed a few spares, and Marcus Winkelpleck once again come from behind victory. He had the most exciting match of the tournament so far in his first round for the come from behind victory on Scott Halverson. He just did it again against Tim Myers. So right now, well, I suppose he's going to have to do some work now. If Tim strikes out in the 10th frame here, he can have a 203. in order for Marcus to shut out Tim Myers, he would have to have the first strike in the 10th. That's all depending on whether or not Tim strikes on this shot. If Tim strikes right here, he forces Marcus to get the first one in the 10th. But as we saw last round, Marcus performed in the clutch. And he gets it. Okay, I'm going to try to flip back over here to camera 4. There we go. Okay, here we go. Ian Willard, 9th frame. Key shot. Gets the wall shot. So right now, currently, Jason Lauer is clinging to a 1-pin lead as we enter the 10th frame. However, Ian is working on a strike in the 9th. If Ian were to get these first 2 strikes in the 10th, it's over for Jason. And he peers it. And Marcus Winkelpleck just dropped the hammer on Tim Myers. Marcus comes through with a 5-bagger. Once again. Great clutch bowling by Marcus. Both sets making it very exciting to watch. And you know what? He's a heck of a nice guy. And he leaves a fast 7. Imagine if that happened the shot before.
He's going for a 300. He needs one more for a 300. Losley.
Oh, he does? I'll put him on there. 300 for Ryan Losley. And Ryan shoots Bills. He really didn't need it. He had that match well in hand. And sometimes, you know, you can relax a little bit, let it flow, and that's exactly what he did. Ryan is the Kurt Cobain of local bowling. He's in a rock band. Trying to switch over to Lauer here, who struck in the 10th. But it didn't matter because Ian struck out. There it is. Ian struck out for 277 for a come-from-behind victory over the king, Jason Lauer. Ian continues his excellent bowling as of late. All right, so that concludes round 3, the Portland Masters. In a very short time, I will have the scores on the Facebook sites. Northwest Bowlers, Kellogg Bowl, and the Portland Masters Facebook page. So coming up will be round 4, and this will be the losers bracket. The 8 winners that we had off this squad will get a break. So not only are the winners of this 2-0, but they actually get a lunch break now, whereas the other remaining 24 competitors must bowl.
What pair is it on right now? The live stream.
They're on every pair.
Oh,
We switch constantly.
my buddies are online. They're all like, "Where's Dan at?" They're just messing around.
Yeah, well,
I was gonna